Thank you for joining us for our College Application 101 webinar today. First things first, what is ScienceHolic? So ScienceHolic is a youth-run nonprofit that aims to introduce intricate scientific concepts in a manner that is fun and comprehensible to teens. We serve as a free resource for students to learn more about our science topics. We strive for our teenage readers and contributors to be critical thinkers and promote thought-provoking conversations. We provide various opportunities for students around the world with English as their second language to expand their English ability, and we provide volunteer and leadership opportunities to those who want to help others. And please look out for our chemistry conference soon. Our first guest is Jessica Dong. She goes to the University of Rochester. Her potential major is epidemiology, and chemistry. Her potential minor is computer science. Her hobbies are basketball, handball, and reading manga. Second is Joyce High. She goes to Cornell University, and her potential major is human biology, health, and society. Her potential minor is global health, and she's a certified EMT. Our third guest is Peggy Yang. She goes to Hopkins University. Her potential major is molecular cell biology and public health. Her potential minor is psychology/bioethics. Her current hyperfixation is classical literature centered around existentialism and psychological horror. Some of her hobbies are, well, as you can tell, coming up with the most chaotic inventions with no practical purpose. She likes playing League of Legends and cooking and archery. So our attendees, if you have any questions, you can leave in the chat and we'll go over them at the end of the webinar. So the first few questions is regarding subjects and academics. How did you choose your major? Let's start with Peggy Yang.
You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, I basically got interested, like the way I chose my major is that I got interested from during my second year of high school, where I was introduced to human anatomy by my elective teacher, and she was basically a doctor, and she talked a lot about her experiences in um the hospital when before she became a teacher, and I just thought that it was interesting, and that's basically how I got into my majors.
Let's go with Jessica next.
So I'm deciding to pursue a double major in epidemiology and chemistry. The reason why I wanted to major in chemistry was because I just really liked AP Chem and I really liked taking Regents chemistry. Like when I first took chemistry, I thought it was like really fun, especially doing like all the stoichiometry stuff. And I didn't have a chance to do more chemistry stuff in my school because they don't offer that many chemistry electives. So I'm hoping that I get to, uh, take more like organic or inorganic chemistry through college. I also want to pursue a major in epidemiology because I want to study more about metabolic diseases. And the idea came to me when I went to like a webinar session and I was listening to various professors talk about their majors, and that was the one that just clicked with me. So I just chose my major through like exploring different, other majors and going through webinars.
That's great. Lastly, we'll have Joyce.
Hi guys. I got my wisdom teeth removed, so if I'm like mumbling a little bit, that's why. Um, so I going into high school, I know I already like biology a lot, so I know I want to major in something related to bio. And during my junior year, I took US history, it might sound like a very basic course, but like it just gave me a new understanding of history. So I was like, it's pretty interesting to see different perspectives and cultures. So I want to major in something that has both like the humanities part as well as the science part, which is how I decided that I want to do human biology, health, and society.
And for our next question, are there any particular classes or summer programs that helped with your application process? Let's go with the same order. We'll have Peggy first.
So basically for my summer programs during the summer after sophomore year, I got interested in the Tufts mini med program, and over there they introduce a lot of bioethics topics and things that bring basically a lot of things that bring up debate on whether on ethical questions in the medical field, and that kind of threw me into like a rabbit hole of questioning whether everything is correct or not, and whether it should be done or it should not be done, or and how much it would benefit the people that are involved making a lot of decisions, and that kind of like got me, and that kind of like was what drove me into pursuing pursuing more into like the psychology field, I guess.
We'll have Jessica.
Okay, so there's no any particular classes that I think that help with my application, but I think a program that definitely boosted my application was the Columbia Science Honors Program. So through that program, you're able to like, I guess, take classes at Columbia and you get to choose like different fields. So I took organic chemistry and I took tissue engineering. And it was taught by like professors or like, I guess, students who are like trying to get a PhD in their fields. And it really helped with my application because it exposed me to like so many different fields and like the STEM fields. And it made me like, see what my likes or dislikes are. And through that, I see that like I like chemistry a lot more after my organic chemistry classes. And it also took me a little bit away from biology and human anatomy because I didn't really like tissue engineering that much. It also really helped with, I guess, the extracurricular part of my application as well, because I was able to talk about my experiences there in my essays and my time working with other students there.
And we'll have Joyce.
Um, I joined John Hopkins biomedical engineering program this summer after my sophomore year. So this is still when I can't decide what major I want to major in under the big like biology umbrella. So I thought I would give like biochemical engineer biomedical engineering a try, but I realized that like although it's like a great program and I learned a lot, it's not for me. So I think that helped shape my application in a way that I know I don't want to do engineering, which is pretty good to know early on. As for like classes, I would say like my electives, I took genetics, biotechnology, and anatomy in my junior year, and I think it really helped with um understanding like new materials, but also like knowing that those type of things is what I want to do.
And for our next question, how did you strategically choose your courses? And we'll have Peggy.
Okay, so during my school, they gave us a decision on which I guess like elective major we wanted to take during high school. And I basically went with the biomedical route. And during those electives, like I said, in my sophomore year during anatomy class, my teacher recommended us to take like mid to take classes that we would see ourselves taking in college. And she basically told us if you wanted to get into like the humanities field, try to take more history and like psycho and social science classes. And that's basic. And she said that if we wanted to get into the STEM major, or like become like a doctor or something, she told us to try to take our academics classes right now and go into the humanities field, or try to go into the social science part later on in college, and because those will dive deeper into my courses. And with that, I basically just went with AP Bio and AP Chem because they were obviously the easier choices, since most of the other STEM majors that or STEM classes that my school offered weren't really that. There weren't a lot of choices. The only ones they offered were AP Psychology and AP Environmental Science, and I really didn't see myself taking those classes, so I just took AP Bio and AP Chem.
I see. Sorry. Next, we'll have Jessica.
So, for my school, I go to Brooklyn Tech. So, at the end of your sophomore year, you're required to like choose a major. So essentially, there's about 20 majors at Brooklyn Tech, and within each majors, there's like specific classes that you have to take in order to graduate. And I went through the biological sciences route, and because of that, I'm required to take AP Bio and anatomy and genetics and psychology. Um, but other than those, some electives I chose was AP Chem and AP Chem and AP Stats. Those were the classes that I took because I already knew that I wanted to do epidemiology, and I know that knowing AP Stats will be like crucial when it comes to my college majors. And I really chose my courses through, if the credit that I'll get from the APs will be beneficial for me in college. And I also chose to take astronomy and astrophysics, but that's only because it's more of a hobby rather than, something that will help me through my college application. There was
Yeah.
really not a specific strategy that I used to choose my courses. I just chose which courses were available to me because my school has a lot of students, so it's really hard to get the courses you want. So I just went with a few courses that I know like some people might not want to take, or some courses that has bigger classes.
Okay. We'll have Joyce next.
For me, I didn't really have a strategy, I would say, but I did choose my courses based on like my workload. So during the fall, I would try and choose less class because volleyball is my main sport, and I really want to balance out a two thing. So I would take like maybe one less elective than I would during winter and spring. So I think it's a really good way, or I guess a tip, because um you don't want to like tire yourself out too much. So I would say if you're like someone who wants to take like AP exams, then maybe like take less class in the spring so you can have some time yourself to review, or just stuff like that. So you can like plan your time out.
And now for some questions regarding extracurricular activities. What are your main activities and how did you choose them? We'll start with Peggy.
Okay. So, the main like sports extracurricular that I got into as a hobby is archery, and I found that it really helped me with stress relief. but it just ended up being a hobby, and I never really went with any official tournaments and stuff since they were all too far and I really didn't have time to go. One extracurricular activity that I like really got into in my junior and senior year is research at my local college. I live near Queens College in New York, so it's a lot easier for me to just travel there, and I managed to get one of the professors I was working under during the previous summer to accept me as a research student, and I basically went over there like once or twice a week to help her with her research, and then we basically just hung out at her lab most of the time.
Mm, okay. We'll have Jessica next.
So my main activity is basketball. Um, I have basketball throughout the first semester of each year. I've been playing basketball since middle school, so it was no surprise that I continued in high school. And I chose basketball because I love the sport. I love the effort and I love the commitment. But because of the commitment, it was like 6 days a week after school, or like sometimes even early in the mornings when I had morning practices. Because of that, it took away a lot of time for me to do other extracurricular activities. But that didn't really bother me much because I just really love the sport, and I I just like playing basketball more than other things like research and such. And my other activity is that for my second semester, I play handball. I just started handball my junior year of high school, and it was a fun sport to play. I really liked, trying to learn a new sport and trying to challenge myself with new things. I guess an academic extracurricular activity was I was the secretary for the microbiology club at my school, and I like microbiology because it was just something new that I learned. AP Bio was fun, and since my AP Bio teacher was also the advisor for our microbiology club, he asked if I would like to give microbiology a try, and that was how I got into microbiology.
When you did basketball or handball, did you go to tournaments and stuff?
Yeah, it was PSAL, so it's like for the school team. So we do like, we have competitions and stuff. We do like scrimmages and we do like actual league and non-league games.
I see. Okay, we'll have Joyce next.
Um, in terms of activities, I guess in school, for athletic parts, I was captain for the varsity volleyball team, my senior year, and I was on the team for all 4 years. And I was also a member of the varsity softball team, and during the winter, I do dance. And some academic activities would be I was the co leader for the biology club at my school. And outside of school, ScienceHolic is obviously a really big one. We started during the pandemic, and we have like continued till like now and hopefully in the future. Um, and another big activity is mental health awareness. So I have been like interviewers for various organizations, and I also like write articles myself about mental health awareness. And during the pandemic, I also tutored some of the students back in China because um I guess when pandemic first started, it's like the whole like region didn't really have like the ability to like online learning. So that's just when I get to like volunteer and help out maybe like primary school students with like their schoolwork.
That's great. Um, for the next question, are there any tips on resume writing? We'll start with Peggy.
So, most of the schools I applied to didn't really require me to attach a resume, but I did end up having to write a resume just for job applications. And what I basically did was just I mapped out like all the I basically like searched up all the common categories that a resume has, and wrote them all down. I slapped them onto like the Google Docs, like to the Google Docs format, and then I tried to shorten them down to the most important points. And then there was also this one also in like early senior year where my elective teachers told us to like made an assignment for us to like review each other's resumes and give critiques on each other so we can try to improve on it.
Okay. Well, Jessica next.
I had a similar experience to Peggy in terms of resume writing. So during my senior year, like the first semester of my senior year, my anatomy, my anatomy teacher was trying to teach us on how to write resumes, and some tips that he gave were, tips such as keeping it short, minimize it to only around a page, and when you write the points in your resume, you have to make sure you quantify everything and to make sure that you write the specific like time that a specific I guess something that you did, like how long it lasted for, and to write like for the bullet points to write about the impacts that you made because of those experiences. Um there yeah, so besides from everything Peggy said, those were some of the main points that I would say I included in my resume writing.
Okay, thank you. We'll have Joyce next.
Um, for me, I think just write down all the activity that like you did, and then you can like put them into categories, and also like you would organize them from the most important in your opinion first to like the least. Um, and also you would make sure just everything is in the same format. So say if you put the name of your position for one, then you would put your like position for all of like the activities you do, or you just put your activities. So just don't mix them up, I guess. So just keep everything in the same format.
Okay, thank you. And now for some general questions on personal statements and application. What did you talk about in your personal statements, and how did you choose your topic? Are there any tips for writing essays? We'll start with Peggy.
So for my personal statement, I wrote about my experience in cooking and how what different seasonings represent different parts of my life and how they're important in my life because I really like cooking and I feel like it is like some and I feel like the most important part of cooking is the flavor of the food. And it does, no matter how things end up, I feel like it all like the small details, like the cooking, like the flavorings that you put in and the seasonings that you put in, are somehow like the little moments in your life that are really important. And I feel like that just really helped me dive deep into how each seasoning impacted a moment of my life or how it's similar to a moment in my life and how it relates to how who I become. And for the a lot of like my personal statements drafts, right? I got people to look it over for me. I got friends and families to look it over for me, as well as the editor to look over for me, just so I can get outsider feedbacks and try to improve on try to narrow down on my topics.
Thank you. We'll have Jessica next.
So for my personal statement, I wrote about the different women that I met throughout my life and how they really shaped me to who I am today. I wrote about my grandma and I wrote about my basketball coach the most and about how they, influenced me into liking the things I do and how they like put me together like a piece of puzzle. And I chose my topic, well, I chose my topic through like just writing down like different topics that I think would make a good personal statement. And then really, I just like asked around my friends, I asked around my family, and I asked my guidance counselor as well about which one of these seems like most appealing and most like unique to me. And that was how I came up with my personal statement. Um, and for in terms of tips for writing essays, I think all you gotta be is like you have to make sure that there's like genuinity in your writings, and you have to make sure that like whatever you write is something that you feel is like representing you and that will give like the reader a different perspective on who you are.
Thank you. We'll have Joyce next.
So I actually have two personal statements. The first one is about dance because I did dance since like when I was really young. And I kind of write my essay as like how you would go through like a show. So you start with like maybe like 20 minutes before the show to like the finale. And it's pretty unique and descriptive, so I just kind of showed who I am throughout I guess this performance and um and I added like little things that makes who I am. The second personal statements is kind of just different, I guess, unique stories from like my middle school to high school, and it shows just how I changed as a person. So those are the two personal statements I wrote. And for how I chose my topic, I kind of just brainstormed and wrote like everything that could be a potential topic into a Google Doc, and I asked around like my family and friends um to see that like which one fits me the most and portray who I am. In terms of writing tips, um I would say just I guess just write, like don't you when you like first start writing your essays, you don't have to think about like the end product. You have to just like get your thoughts out first. Um this way like you don't have like any reservations, and like if you like always think like this topic is not going to be a good topic, then like you won't like have, I guess, as good as like a product. So I would just say to write and see what happens.
Okay, and for next question, how did you plan out your time? And we'll have Peggy first.
So I started like kind of mid-ish late around like late August, so early September in the beginning of senior year. And I basically so starting from then, I basically just took whenever I had free time or whenever I felt like an idea came to me, and I just decided to just write for like for like 2 or 3 hours before stopping, resting, and then going back to writing. And I usually try to finish my assignments early so I have more time just in case like an idea popped up in my head, because it happens a lot with me for some reason. I don't know why. But just in case like an idea pop up in my head, I don't have to worry about rushing my finishing all my other assignments first before I have to finish my college essays. And I took my weekends. Usually I would write late at night instead of early in the morning because my brain just doesn't function in the morning and somehow it functions at night. So whenever you feel like your brain functions the best, I suggest you take that, make like a break time for that period and take that time to write your college essays or like write your or like finish assignments that you need to that you feel like you would be the best during that time frame instead of trying to rush it or have like a specific schedule.
Thank you. And we'll have Jessica next.
So I already knew at the end of my junior year that I really should start my college application early on, maybe like, through the summer, which I did. I started like, writing my personal statement and getting my resume ready around, I'll say like mid-July. Um, it was kind of tough to get everything throughout the summer done because I was also, you know, I wanted a high score on my SAT, so my parents kind of threw me into a SAT like tutoring thing over the summer. That took a lot of time away from me, but that was that. I try to work on it mostly at night as well because that's usually when, not distracted by anything and I feel like, I can actually concentrate. I I did do some college stuff throughout like September and October, but I really had to like finish my stuff up because basketball season started like late October as well. And I know that if I had to play basketball and do my schoolwork and do college application at the same time, I'm not gonna be able to like, manage out my time that wisely. I'm also sometimes a huge procrastinator, so that really told me that I really should start working on it, like, throughout the weekends and especially during the summer. So what I did was I did most of my stuff throughout the summer, and in September, I just did some like few minor edits and tweaking throughout like the October and November months. I plan on my time. I use a timer sometimes because I know that I sometimes cannot focus well, and I always have this urge to like, just get off and go on social media. So I like to like plan out my time, like sometimes even like just doing 20 minutes of writing or like 20 minutes of brainstorming just makes me feel better. And a couple like sessions of that 20 minutes a day like really adds up at the end. And although it doesn't feel like I did much on paper, I feel like, I planned out my time wisely and I was still able to get something on the paper.
Thank you. And we'll have Joyce last.
I would say the summer after your junior year going into like your senior year is very important. So basically I took 1/3 of that time learning ACT, and then I took um the second or yeah, the second part like learning EMT stuff. And those during those two like time periods, I didn't really do anything related to like writing essays or stuff like that. I kind of just devoted my time into those two things. And it's not that like I don't want to write any essays during those times. It's just because it's really hard to like find more time after like learning um ACT or learning the EMT course is a super intense time period, I guess. And for the last little bit of summer, I kind of just try to use my time wisely, and I finished like a pretty complete draft of my personal statements. And also I started writing my UC application essays. Although they're like not due until like much later, but I found that after you look through all the topics um that you have to write about, they have like they're like really like no matter what UC topics you choose, like you can definitely reuse the essay and edit it to make it a new essay. So that's why I decided to start with the UCs. During fall term, I guess I just really tried to like complete as much like assignments as I can during like a day, and also use my time in the weekend really wisely. Usually, for Saturdays, I have class in the first, uh, like in the morning and like till like around 12, and I would usually have like a game. So it depends on when like I finish, but I usually use the time like the evening time to write several essays, maybe like just for one school, and then use Sunday to revise it. I think the weekends really helped a lot, but I would say just utilize your time well and like just I guess don't waste time. Like you would rather get sleep than doing like something else that's not like necessary.
Okay, thank you. And for our next question, how did you choose which university to apply to? We'll have Peggy first.
So this university was actually recommended to me by my teachers in school, and they told me like since I was interested in the medical field, they recommended me to this university, to Johns Hopkins, because they thought that it was, since Johns Hopkins is a research university and it has a really good medical school, they thought that I had a better chance in getting into the field I'm interested in if I just went to that university and went to like a top university in their field instead of choosing universities outside of the fields that wouldn't really specialize in what I'm interested in.
Thank you. And we'll have Jessica next.
So the universities that I chose, they weren't like too big of universities because I go to a really big high school. There's like 6,000 students total. Like my graduating class is like 1,500 students. Like it's huge. And I just don't want to go to a school that's too big. And I also wanted to go to a school that specializes in research and offers epidemiology as a major. So I had to make sure that, the schools that I apply to have the majors that I want. And they also have what's it called? They also have like good like research opportunities. And I ended up wanting to go to I ended up choosing to go to University of Rochester because it it's a pretty small size school. It's like the size of my high school in terms of undergraduate uh population, which is kind of insane. Um and it also offers a lot of research opportunities. It has like a department just specializing in research and giving, undergrads a like a opportunity to do like internships over the summer or like internships throughout their freshman year. I also think location is also really important. I all the schools I applied to um are like the east side of the United States because I wanted to, stay close to family. Not like too close to the point that I see them on the weekends, but like close enough for me to, to travel back and forth without having to like, board on an airplane and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And we'll have Joyce next.
For me, I kind of just chose my schools based on um like my fit, I guess, like if I think I can get in or not based on like my extracurriculars and like um test scores, I guess. Um I guess it's a good way to like narrow down your schools and figure out which schools that to figure out like a balance. But after you kind of have the idea, I chose my school based on like if they're good at like biology and if they have like the resources I need for med school and also if they have like the major that I want to do. So that's kind of how I chose my school, but I think it's also really important to think about uh I guess the lower end schools more because like it's really easy to say that I want to apply to like these like top universities, but I think I did most of my research in like the lower end school and which ones I want to apply to because um I think it's really important to have like to know that if like I didn't get into like any universities like these universities that's in the lower end would um make me like a successful applicant for med school and that I would be also like really happy at those places.
Thank you. And for our next question, if you can only give one advice to a rising high school senior, what would it be? We'll start with Peggy.
So one advice I'll give to rising high school seniors is to start their application, is to like research and decide what and narrow down their list of colleges during the summer instead of before application season. And the reason I say this is because I was one of those stupid students that decided to research while I'm doing my college essays. And that I feel like that kind of really just put everything in a rush for me. And it kind of, I feel like I could have just made better, I could have had like a better, like overall quality of life or like high school life in my senior year during the fall if I just like decided to spend my summer researching and narrowing down which college, university, and which universities and college and like majors I wanted to get into, and researching like what college topics I wanted to write about.
Thank you. And well, Jessica next.
Um, I know that as a rising high school senior, you feel like there's going to be a lot on your plate because not only do you have to, finish the year strong in terms of like academics, you also have, college applications around the corner. So I think an advice I would have given to myself was to get a planner so I can like write down everything I need to do. And sometimes just by writing things down, you feel like a lot less stressed. And I really like advise getting like a planner and like, just trying to, I guess, space things out so like you can feel less stressed about, you know, your senior year and still manage to, sneak some fun into it. Um, so I guess also it is your senior year. I feel like this is when a lot of people like senioritis hits like really fast. So like an advice I would give to rising seniors will be like to stay focused. Sometimes it is hard to, stay focused, but I feel like, having like study sessions or like doing like college applications with like a group of friends or just, having some support along the sides, especially like, talking to your guidance counselors and college counselors from time to time is really beneficial. And I think overall you just gotta, like just get through the end of the school year because I know that like after the college applications are over, it's gonna feel so free and you're really gonna be able to enjoy like the last semester of your high school journey like freely.
Thank you. And well, Joyce next.
I would say don't compare yourself to your peers and also be patient. So I guess those two things kind of goes together. When you're choosing your school and like finalizing your school list, don't just apply because your friend applied to a university. I feel like that definitely influenced me a lot because I would hear like my friends applying to like a particular university or my counselor telling me that I should apply to that particular university for X, Y, and Z, and I did apply. Um, and I feel like after like the process, it's really not necessary. Like one university really won't change much. And also I think you should just like um do whatever you believe in instead of like listening to like others and like let them tell you what to do because like it's good to listen to advice, but you have to like um I guess just take the advice under consideration instead of like actually just do it no matter what because I feel like there's a lot of schools that I applied or maybe not a lot, maybe just three or four that even if I get in, I wouldn't really consider. So I feel like you shouldn't like waste your time writing essays for those schools and also just like spending like maybe like around $70 for their application fee because that really adds up and it's really not necessary to put yourself into that situation where you have to write like more essays. Um, and also just when the application like decision starts to come out, like just really be patient with yourself. Like you might get a bunch of like wait list and rejection like in during like one specific like time period. I know that like during March or like during like late March, I got a bunch of um I guess wait lists and rejections. So like that was kind of like scary because you feel like you won't get any more acceptances and you're like also not satisfied with like what you have before. So I would just say be patient because you never know. Um, I got my acceptances like really late, like the last day of like I think it's the last day or last few days of like um my decision. So it's just really like a waiting game and just don't get defeated. And also just if you didn't get into like a lower ranking school, don't think that like you won't get into like a higher ranking school based off of that because I definitely got rejected, were waitlisted in like a bunch of like lower ranking schools. And I still got I think I still had a really good application season. So I think don't really just based on like don't let your application like decision impact your like moods because it's really not worth it. And maybe like the school that rejected you is just because they don't think you're a good fit, but not that you're not a good applicant.
Thank you. And that was the last question. So, attendees, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat and we'll go over them after we answer the questions from our registration forms. Thank you. So, the first question from our attendees is, how did you know which major is right for you? We'll start with Peggy.
So the majors that I like basically narrowed down into were public health and cell molecular biology. And the cell molecular biology part was when I started learning taking AP Bio in the early senior year. And I thought that biology was just a really interesting topic during that time. So when I started my application, I put that as one of my majors. And then for public health, I was just really into debating, and we had a lot of Socratic seminars in my junior year in my elective class, in my biomedical class, and I really enjoyed those debates, and I felt that it was just a good topic to like a good major to go into if I were to study in the medical field.
Thank you. And Jessica?
So when I was younger, I actually want to go down the medical field path. I wanted to become a surgeon. But then in my senior year of, high school, I took anatomy, and it was through that I realized that I do not like blood and I don't really like biology. So as a result, I kind of, scratched that idea. And I thought I took AP Bio because one, it was a required class for me, and two, I thought it was because, I think I would like biology and like I would like learning about genetics and stuff. But I just learned through those classes that being like going down like the biology path and going through my school was not the right choice for me. I decided to like I got interested in public health after well, during the pandemic as well. I got interested in public health, but public health is like a wide spectrum of like different kinds of like specific majors. And I think I got into epidemiology because, during COVID, everything in the news was just about, trying to contain COVID, trying to, make sure that everyone's vaccinated and coming up with different vaccines for it. And it was through that I kind of learned that like although I do want to help people, being a doctor just wasn't a thing for me, and I wanted to help people on a bigger scale, like globally or like just in a country. So I decided to go through the epidemiology path because the research that we do there doesn't just benefit one person, but it can benefit like a whole population.
Thank you. We'll have Joyce next.
To me, I know that I want to major in something like related to biology, but I didn't really know what until like my summer after junior year, where I actually like started researching schools and majors. And I think the best way to do that is just to go on like a university's website and just click all the majors that you think you would be interested in. And then you would read their descriptions and the like sample courses and elective courses. And after you read through those, you will kind of have an idea of like what the major is about. And then you would choose your major based on how much like how interested you are in for that major. So I like after reading about like human biology, health and society, I was really interested in like how uh it's all really just focused on like the human well-being and also in different perspectives such as like nutritional or like natural or just like pure like scientific. So I think that was really interesting for me and that's how I know that the major is right for me.
Okay, thank you. And for our next attendee question is what type of essays did you write for your application? We'll have Peggy.
So, the three like main essays I wrote were community essays, a leadership or teamwork essay that they had me write, and a YS essay, which is the most common type of essay that you see on college application. Basically, any college will like if they require essay, the YS essay is gonna be there. So, that's like the main type of essay I focused on. And for the teamwork or leadership essay, they were really asking about how like you contributed to how like you worked in a teamwork environment and how you're able to collaborate with others. While the community essay was really on your like your contribution to like your culture, like over like they said the example, or like to the people or like the impact you have on your community or like the people around you. It could be really like on a bit larger scale, or it could just be on like a few people or like your family members.
Okay, thank you. And next we'll have Jessica.
I actually wrote similar essays to what Peggy said because in terms of college essays, a lot of the questions that the schools will ask you will be super similar, except for the YS essay because that's like separate and specific to each school. But similar to Peggy, I just wrote about, like my major, why I decided to choose the major that I chose. Um, Obviously I had the personal statement and I wrote about, the different leadership slash volunteering opportunities I had and like the impacts of those on me and the people around me. I don't really have like too much to add on to this question, but I just want to say that like it's really important to have like specific sets of questions that are like they're like common like throughout the application process too, because like that way you don't have to write that many essays for each school. You can just reuse the essays that you wrote already and just tweak it a little bit to, better match the prompt that they give you.
Thank you. And next we'll have Joyce.
For me, for the leadership kind of essay, I talked about ScienceHolic and my leadership experience here. And I also kind of just in the end I talked about how like um this experience really helped me to like try new things and I kind of talked about some of my other activities as well. The community I say I wrote mainly about mental health and just my own mental health journey as well as how like I used it to like help others. Um, and also another essay I wrote is about my EMT experience. So those are really my three main essay. And obviously sometimes schools will give you different prompts, so you have to like come up with like a different um type of essay. Um, for the Y school and Y major, sometimes like it's different, but like I feel like it's really the same thing. Like even though you're talking about the major, but you're also talking about like how this the school provides like a unique perspectives for this major. And I guess it's also like a Y school essay in a sense. And for those essays, although like you will be talking about different things for each school, I have like I guess like a half a template for me to use. So I usually talk about um different things, but like some some like topics is like around the same um theme, I guess, so that you don't have to like make a completely like new essay, but you still have like an outline to follow. And I think that's really helpful when you have to write like 20, maybe even more like school essays.
Thank you. And for our last question, is it too late to start building a good application in junior year? Let's start with Peggy.
So like to be honest, if you're talking about like early on in junior year, absolutely not. You can sign up for so many more. Like I would say junior year is where you would have like the most opportunities to gain exposure or like start building your really like solidifying your resume. But like I would say if it's like try to get some summer activities in during junior between like junior year and senior year or summer. And before that, try to include as many like activities as you did. Like if you did like a specific volunteering thing for like a club of yours. So example, if you're in Key Club and you went to a specific like larger event, I think you should include that in like your application because it would be like a really good example of what you did for the club instead of just saying, "Oh, I joined these clubs," instead of just saying, "I don't have any experience. I joined these clubs, but I don't have any experience."
Thank you. And for Jessica,
Yeah, I don't think it's too late to start building a good application in junior year because, well, I don't even think that it's too late to start over the summer of junior year as well, like the one entering senior year, because what's it called? Because in your college application, I'm not sure if all schools has this, but some schools they will like they have like you can always like I guess tell them more about yourself in like the college application. Usually college applications are due like towards the end of December or like some even in the beginning of the next year. And I think throughout those months you can always, maybe try to do something more to benefit your application, but that doesn't mean that you should just start doing some random things just so you can fill out your application and for you to have something to talk about. I do believe that it is important to put time and effort into a activity that you do, but I don't think it'll be like too late to start in your junior year because that's usually the year when people start to like, have when people like get settled in high school and they have like some experience already, and that's when they like start doing most of their like major accomplishments like throughout their junior year and into their senior year. So it's definitely not too late to start, but would suggest to start maybe a little bit earlier, like around the end of sophomore year.
okay, thank you. And next we'll have Joyce.
I don't think it's too late to start building your application, but I feel like some of your activities you definitely have started during your freshman and sophomore year. But in terms of like thinking about how you want to like, I guess, how you want to like what would be like the focus of your application and what activities you really want to like emphasize on. I don't think that's too late to start in junior year. Um and I feel like it is really understandable because it's really hard for most high school students to have an understanding of like what they want to do um during like their sophomore or freshman year. So I feel like universities would definitely understand that. But I would say just utilize your time really well in your junior year and make sure that um you know like the reason that you're doing that extracurricular for. Like a lot of it is like for fun and hobby and that's like for sure. But also like for some I guess like have a purpose when you're doing the activities, maybe like jot down some notes when you're like like for an experience that you can later talk about like in a essay, so that it's easier um instead of like brainstorming everything like all at once when you have to write the essay.
Okay, sorry, there's one more question. Just one tip you would give for interviews. And we'll start with Peggy.
So one thing I would say for interviews is like if it's online, I would suggest try to dress appropriately, like business casual, and like maybe put on some makeup if your camera is not really good at like covering up certain stuff. But another thing for like the actual interview, I would say just make eye contact, like make a lot of eye contact. And if you are comfortable, try doing hand gestures to when you're explaining things, because it does really show the interviewer that you are trying to get through with them and trying to establish a connection with them.
Thank you. And Jessica?
While I'm never really the interview of a interview because I didn't have to go through any interviews through my college application. But some tips that I would give is to whenever you're interviewing someone, you have to remember that the person that's interviewing you is still human. You also sometimes have to make sure that, throughout it, you have to make sure you got to be polite. You don't want to sound like a robot throughout your whole interview. Like, make it sound a bit more natural, especially if it's online. And also just be like truthful to what you say and try to maybe like, spark a conversation with the person that's interviewing you and try to leave some good impressions because they like interview a lot of people and you really have to like try to stand out through like, maybe cracking some jokes in there or like just having a casual conversation. But sometimes you also have to keep in mind to make sure to not be too informal, but like don't also be too like uptight and nervous or stressful.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, we'll have Joyce.
I would say before the interview, you really gotta like prep for the interview. So just search up common questions that's asked during like college interviews. And I remember having like almost like 50 of them, and I just like go through all of them. So I put them in a Google Doc and I write like some points that I could talk about, and I would just like go through it like once or twice before like my very first interview. So like if a question is asked, I know what to respond to. And also just make sure that you really do research for the school that you're being interviewed at, because they would definitely ask like school related questions like why would you want to go to like the school, or like why do you want to major in this. So you definitely, or like what are some activities that you want to be involved in um if you get in, or stuff like that. So you definitely want to know a good answer for these type of questions, so definitely do your research for the school. And another big tip I would have is just to like write down your interview time in a planner, or like just set a reminder or a Google Calendar. Because like I guess senior year can get really hectic and sometimes you would forget stuff. And I think Google Calendar really just saved my life for one of my interview because I totally forgot about it. Like I swear to God, I remembered that I would have that interview like early on in that day, but just during the afternoon, I just completely forget. And then like Google Calendar really reminded me that I have an interview. So I didn't miss that interview, which I was really thankful for. So just really make sure that you have a reminder set for yourself. And um, the last tip I will have is just to write a thank you letter for your interviewer, whether it's like a student or a alumni. I think that's like pretty much necessary, and it just shows that you appreciate their time.
Thank you for the advice. And if there are still any questions, you can leave it in the chat. Um, but if not, thank you so much for attending the webinar, and let's give a huge thank you to Peggy, Jessica, and Joyce for their time. And thank you so much for attending the webinar.